last year I started watching every James Bond movie for the first time. And then I went through each era of James Bond by actor and reviewed every single James Bond movie. Then I made some fun countdowns. I had more planned, but I've been doing this for a while now, and come on, this isn't a James Bond channel, and I don't want it to be. And so, folks, our journey is almost at its end. This will be the second to last James Bond video I intend to make for the foreseeable future. It is in this video that I will be listing my worst to best actors to ever play James Bond. And to sweeten the deal, I will also rank my worst to best James Bond eras afterwards. So those of you watching this one are getting a bonus. Here we go. Number 7, George Lazenby. No fucking surprise there. I've been told that I've been pronouncing this guy's name wrong, and to be completely honest, I don't give a fuck. This man doesn't deserve to have his name pronounced correctly. This man doesn't even deserve a number on this list. Because to give him even the lowest number implies that he has some sort of value. George Lazenby is an abomination. That this creature was allowed to make faces and noises in front of a camera is not just an insult to this franchise, but to filmmaking in general. His face is the most punchable thing I have ever seen. His acting is late-term abortion. The fact that anyone saw any potential in this talentless fucking hack makes me sick inside. The fact that someone decided to make him a follow-up to Sean Connery in the role of James Bond fills me with unfathomable disgust. This man's agent, who convinced him not to play James Bond ever again, is nothing short of a goddamn hero, and him not ever being in a second Bond film was the single greatest thing to ever happen to this franchise. George, wherever you are, I hope you're miserable. Go fuck a pine cone. Number 6, David Niven. Yeah, that's right. Even David Niven in that dogshit non-canonical, non-Eon movie was a better Bond than George Lazenby. Get fucked, George. Okay, now we can get to the real ones. Number 5, Roger Moore. Roger Moore is a strange case. The strangest case. His era was easily the weirdest era for this franchise. And that includes him. I don't want to say he was miscast, but, well, there's 4 guys on this list that I obviously put above him. He was easily the ugliest Bond actor. And he's not ugly, he's just ugly for James Bond. When a person thinks about James Bond, they're not thinking about this guy. He's not suave, he's not smooth, he's not sleek. He's like if your uncle was James Bond. He's goofy. He's the James Bond version of the Adam West Batman. That's the Bond that he was. He plays the role straight, but with some humor. He's not believable as a spy or as a killer, or as a man who women who look like this would want to bang. He was definitely the Bond who overstayed his welcome. He was in his 50s when he finally hung it up. And I say this with love because I don't think Moore was a bad Bond. I said as much when I reviewed his era. And a lot of what keeps him down here does have to do with the scripts they were feeding him at the time, which wasn't his fault. There were some great Moore Bond flicks. There were also some horrendously fucking bad ones. Sadly, he'll always be connected to this era of Bond. But Roger Moore is great. He loved the role and did the best he could with it. Number 4, Timothy Dalton. The sleeper hit of the Bond franchise. Timothy Dalton was so great for the brief period of time we had him. Cold, calculating, and closer to the book than any other Bond. Dalton's Bond felt fucking dangerous. This dude just has this look to him that makes him feel like he'd kill you dead if you say the wrong thing to him. He never smiles. But when he does, it's that weird, rare, like Darius smile from the corner of his mouth. And women? This Bond barely has time for them. He has more important shit to worry about. But sadly, Dalton's time as Bond was cut short. And between his 2 movies, only License to Kill felt like it was really made for him. That movie could have only been played by this Bond. The Living Daylights could have been played by Roger Moore, and it still would have fit the plot. It would have been so great to get that final 3rd film, but alas, that just ain't what happened. Would it have put him any higher on this list? Maybe, but I only have the 2 to work with. Number 3, Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan as James Bond rules. What a great fucking choice this guy was. He took all the previous Bonds and rolled them together. And what we got was the most balanced version of James Bond. This was a Bond who was suave, silly, and deadly all at the same time. This is the Bond that could be molded into whatever the script needed him to be. And if that puts Brosnan at the top of your list, I got no problem with that. That's a great reason. He was just so believable as Bond. And let's not forget the one-liners. I said it before, I'll say it again. Brosnan had the best one-liners in the series. He was so witty. Brosnan was another one whose time as Bond ended unfairly. It would have been nice to see if he could have brought back the franchise a second time. But instead we got number 2, Daniel Craig. I love Daniel Craig as James Bond. What can I say? The man brought depth to a character who'd never had it before and was the perfect choice for what Eon was trying during this era of Bond. Did I like every movie from this era? Fuck no. But did Craig bring it every time? Yeah. Yeah, he did. Daniel Craig made Bond human. And I appreciated that we got to have a version of Bond that attempted this. A Bond who bled, got injured, wept for the people he couldn't save, felt the real weight of the tragedies that happened to him. This is what would go through Bond's head if he were real and this kind of shit was actually happening to him. Craig brought something new to the role, and his performance as Bond was the least derivative of number 1, Sean Connery. After all is said and done, after all the praise I've given the last few of these guys, some of you, hopefully not most, but some of you may be thinking, still? After all these years? Yeah, motherfucker. Still. After all these years. Sean Connery's portrayal of James Bond was the pinnacle of who Bond is on film. He's rugged, yet suave. Matter of fact, he's the most rugged and most suave of them all. He's a man's man, and a ladies' man. He's got a license to kill, and he uses it, without hesitation. He has tracked supervillains far and wide. The sexiest women in existence all want his weenus the minute they lay eyes on him, because he got the look, the stride, the swag, the confidence, the motherfucking persona. All of these awesome, great other Bonds still had to convince us that they had these things. Because they all came after Connery, who just naturally fucking had them. It was equal parts acting talent and image, which resulted in natural instant iconography. This truly is the most masculine creature ever put to film. James Bond has become a legendary character in fiction, especially on the cinema side of fiction. But what made Bond special for over 60 years was that there was some character consistency across all the actors, all the eras, etc. James Bond was James Bond. He will always return. But every single other good Bond actor on this list borrowed or emulated some aspect of Sean Connery's performance as James Bond. Even Daniel Craig, though he was the one that tried to break away from that somewhat. And I'm down with that. James Bond should be this person. But James Bond is this person in huge part because of Sean Connery. But now I'd like to talk about something a little different. When I review these movies, I reviewed them by each era of the actors who played them. So I think it's only fair to tell you my favorite James Bond era. To do this, I had to take the list of my final film rankings and average them out for each actor. I did not count the non-Eon films, and I did not count on Her Majesty's Secret bullshit. That was George Lazenby's only one, and you know exactly where that one would end up. Alright, so here's my worst to best James Bond eras. Averaged out. My least favorite era of Bond is the Moore era. After that, by a wide margin, it's the Craig era. Then it's the Connery era, and here's where it gets tricky. If you want to count Dalton as an era, his era is my second favorite. But ask yourself, is that fair? The guy was only in 2 movies. He didn't really get a chance to fuck up. Personally, it's hard for me to look at his tenure as Bond with the same fairness as the other 4 guys. So if his era counts, then it's second place. But if you're counting a guy who actually had a shot at an era, Connery's era is second place. Which makes my favorite era of James Bond the Pierce Brosnan era. What can I say? The guy was in 2 movies that rank very highly on my list, had one that's sort of in the middle, and his worst movie is to me, the least bad, worst movie of any of the Bond actors. So yeah, the Pierce Brosnan era was my favorite era of James Bond. But this raises the question, what are my actual rankings of the James Bond films? Well, guys, that's going to be the next video. And it will be the final James Bond video I make for a long, long time. It was about a year ago that I actually watched all these movies for the first time, and since then, this James Bond journey has dominated this channel for this whole year. I won't say it'll be the final video I ever make about James Bond, but it will be the last one for a really long time. So stay tuned, because every journey has to end sometime.